Hi there, I'm Susanna. In this first of a series of vlogs, I just want to address the topic of spirituality at work, just to give a little bit about background information to what I do and the processes and the kind of topics that I address, because I know it is quite a new thing to bring to the workplace, but it is definitely the future, and certainly it's been supported very much in the academic research. So this is kind of one of a series of blogs. I haven't quite decided how many I'm going to do yet, but just going to kind of give you a little bit of background information. And today I'll be just talking about why it's needed. But also in future, we'll be talking about kind of spiritual capital, spiritual intelligence, the employer brand and how spirituality is relevant to that, organizational citizenship, existential health or spiritual health. And I use the words very much interchangeably. So kind of, use whatever word you prefer, spiritual or existential, whichever you prefer, and spiritual dissonance in the workplace and spiritual distresses or existential distresses, some of which have actually arrived in EU courts. And I do remember kind of over 20, maybe 30 years ago, going to employers and saying, listen, mental health issues are coming down the track. They're going to be the future in terms of they're going to be the responsibility of employers. And really at the time, a lot of people not believing and kind of saying, listen, none of our business, we don't go there, we don't want to and we don't need to go there. And look how things have changed. And really spirituality is kind of we would say the kind of underpins both physical and mental health, and therefore is actually very, very relevant to the workplace, and particularly the modern workplace and the future of work. Because when we talk all about the kind of, there's been so much in the media about the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle, as it's called, we could really talk a lot about in this as a lot of that movement in the workplace as actually existential exits. Because without question, the pandemic gave us all time to review. It gave us a break in the habitual patterns, both of behaviour and ways of working, and attitudes to things like, and beliefs about things like hybrid working or remote working and that kind of stuff. So things got challenged and they got kind of shaken up, as it were. And from that, we began to kind of realise that actually all was not as it seemed, and that there were different ways of working and different ways of doing it. It also meant that we kind of got to look up a little bit. We had more time perhaps with family, loved ones, and not enough time, of course, with some other loved ones. But it was an existential review for a lot of us, a time to say, well, where am I going with my life? Is this the path I planned to go on and to follow? Is what I'm doing complementary to my values and where I find meaning, and where I want, if I look retrospectively, where I want my life to have stood for, and that kind of thing. So there's a new dimensionality to recruitment. Instead of it being kind of like the two-dimensional, kind of like what the CV looks like, and the kind of transactional aspect of kind of recruitment and interviewing processes, it's very much it's a new dimensionality that's there, because people are now looking at themselves, and you could kind of say 3D or multidimensional, whatever you want to look at. But what it is that it's looking at the bigger picture. That's what COVID and the various lockdowns gave us. It gave us time to look at that bigger picture of our lives. And now we bring that lens to what we want to do with our lives and where we want to work and who we want to work for. And this is where the discussion on your employer brand really comes into focus. So it is a time where we're now kind of going, okay, well, if this is what I want my life to have stood for, these are my strengths, this is my meaning, this is where I might find purpose or whatever. These are the things that I feel really passionate about. Now it needs to, from that bigger picture lens, it needs to be kind of retrofitted back into, well, what am I doing with my day-to-day living? So that's where this discussion is really, really important. And as I say, if you don't like the word spiritual, just use existential. I'm speaking from Dublin, Ireland, and certainly in Ireland and for many other countries, religion equals spirituality, spirituality equals religion. We'd no other interpretation of it. And for a lot of people, that's kind of too woo for work. It's too, it's kind of like a dangerous topic, as it were. Now, spirituality obviously includes religion. It has to, that is how some people find their spirituality, but it is not all of spirituality, which is kind of a wider term. So it is about meaning, purpose, but also some of the kind of the deeper things that we want for our lives. And that's it, that three-dimensional or multi-dimensional view, that big lens view of our lives that often we'd only get, you know, on management away days. We do it when we kind of our weekends away and that kind of stuff, when we look at the bigger picture of where we want, what we want the company to stand for and where we want to head with our organization, etc. But this is what spirituality does and gives us for our own life, and it's really what people are now looking for. So really, in terms of your employer brand and in terms of attracting the top talent, you need to be thinking and considering this, and you need to be looking at what we stand for. There's an interesting survey done by LinkedIn recently, and they found that 74% of respondents wanted their employer to take a stance, and a stance obviously that matched their values in terms of current cultural debates. So now a lot more is being asked of employers. It's not that just that transactional kind of, you know, money for work or money for hours, etc. So this is kind of why I do an awful lot. I do lots on various different aspects of mental health and mental health at work, but particularly specialise in this area of this growing area of spirituality at work. And as I say, do swap in the word existential if you wish to. But it means that the employer really needs to take the same stance as you know, in terms of their employees and their team, if they want to retain talent. And we see this in the academic literature in terms of recruitment and retention and engagement and that kind of thing. We really need to be looking at everybody in that multidimensional way, because really at the end of the day, an employer is kind of a passenger in a part of somebody's life, in a part of that bigger picture, and that's where the employer needs to kind of meet those needs if they want to kind of like retain their best people. So that's it for the first video. If please, love you to follow me, or if you want to post any questions or anything like that, or just kind of your own thoughts, please do so. Love to hear from you. But I'm Susanna Healy, and until the next time, talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.